Okay, test recording levels good. All right, so let's get started. Hey guys, I'm Vitaly. Welcome to my studio one more time. And if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing or hitting that notification bell button that will notify you when the new videos are posted. So you click on this video because the title of it is my first wedding with a Nikon Z6 II. Now, this is not my first wedding ever, but my first wedding shooting using Nikon Z6 II. So let me just kind of cut to the chase and talk specifically about the items that I don't like, and my overall experience and sort of a summary of the camera. Prior to shooting with a mirrorless camera, I come from the background using DSLR, such as Nikon D500, D810, and I shoot portraits, I shoot weddings, I shoot vacations, you know, my kids. And I've gotten Nikon Z6 II since November of 2020. And I've used it for portraits, photographs, family vacations, engagements, but this is my first wedding. So overall, I got very familiar with the camera. I know the settings. Here, primarily, I'm going to talk only about the photo settings, not so much about video. And so let me share about image quality. Now, I think image quality is spectacular. 24 megapixels, plenty enough to print, to share and post on social media, to be able to print different size photographs. So it's really fantastic. Previously, I used, like I mentioned, Nikon D500. It was a 20 megapixels, and this camera is like a beast. You know, great dynamic range, great options for different file sizes, great raw files that were coming out of this camera. So that kind of pushed me to get Nikon Z6 II. JPEGs coming out of a Z6 II are also phenomenal. You know, to a point where if you shoot at the right light, right settings, you don't even need to do a whole lot of editing. Now, when I shoot weddings, obviously I shoot in RAW. I hope you do as well. But however, I did start using, when I started shooting weddings, I started shooting it in JPEGs. As shamefully I am admitting that, but this is kind of how my journey with photographing weddings began. IAF on a camera. So previously, on cameras such as this one, Nikon D500. Is it going to focus or not? Let's see. It should. There we go. On Nikon D500, only obviously you have to kind of use your shutter button to be able to focus, to be able to pinpoint exactly using that single area focus. Now with IAF, it really has changed a lot, so much for me. Now they also added something new. It's called wide area AF, where you have like a red box, basically, kind of starts in the middle of the screen, and you can move it left and right. And as I spoken previously at one of my videos, that this can be very handy at weddings, and which exactly I used it for at my weddings my wedding that I recently shot, where I was able to isolate the subject within basically groups of people to be able to make sure that my camera only focuses on that object only, rather than kind of on the closest object that I had for myself. As far as ergonomically, I think a camera is pretty decent when it comes to ergonomics. I do miss a little bit of a larger body like a D500. This is really spectacular ergonomically. Z6 II is a little bit smaller, so I find sometimes that my pinky was basically kind of missing the bottom of the camera. But what I used one of those spider camera straps, basically for hand strap, and that I think mitigated for that lack of more beefier body. So I was pretty pleased. When it comes to weight, I think it's definitely lighter than DSLRs. However, it's all going to depend on kind of a lens that you're using. If you're using something like 70-200, obviously the camera is going to be much heavier. Even if you're using a 24-70, camera still has some weight to it. Now, once you switch to prime lenses like 35mm and 50 and even 85, the camera feels like it balanced so well. So when it comes to the ergonomics, I would say, you know, it's better than Sony. It's probably equal to R5 and R6 level. When it comes to ergonomics, obviously the way you hold it, it's a little bit differently, but I think it's sufficient enough to be able to say, okay, it's comfortable. Next one is EVF. Now, I'm not very used to using EVF. I always shot with kind of using my regular optical viewfinder in the past, and I was able to get used to EVF fairly quickly, to a point where it's almost like I feel like a kid a little bit, shooting with my finger pointing a little bit like this, or, you know, using obviously the shutter button. And before, when I used to see photographers do something like this, you know, the perception was like, okay, they don't know exactly what they're doing. They're using their camera just like a cell phone. But in this case, because screen is so responsive, and what you see on a screen is what you get. So whether you're looking through the EVF on the camera, or you're looking through the on the screen, it's really kind of going to be the same. It's bright, it's sharp. You can also review images through the viewfinder. I remember when I was using it outdoors, you know, right next to the water, a lot of daylight, you know, it's very sunny. I was able to actually see very well through my viewfinder how sharp my images were, whether they were overexposed, underexposed. It really a big help. So I am a big fan of EVF now. Now, as far as the Eyecup, I do want to share with you guys something. So I purchased this, I don't know, some no-name brand type a cup for, I guess you call it Eyecup, and it's made by a company, Kiwi, if I'm understanding it correctly. So here's the brand package itself, and it was like, you know, $13 or something like that. It wasn't very expensive. But what I found was that this Eyecup is, when it comes to the profile, is slightly, well, I wouldn't say slightly, maybe twice as large as the Eyecup that comes with Nikon Z6 II. And what was going on is, as you're looking through the Eyecup, it's kind of hard to see all the data information within the camera within the electronic viewfinder. So I actually ended up taking this off, and you know, pretty much $13 wasted, did not go anywhere. So not really using it a whole lot, but the, you know, Eyecup, it's pretty decent within Nikon Z6 II. As far as the IBIS, I was very impressed by IBIS on the camera. I shot in low light conditions in some situations where I was able to, you know, use, you know, f1.8, go as low on the 50 millimeter. Here we go, by the way, 50 millimeter 1.8 S, and excellent lens, sharp, no complaints at all. It's basically a sharp all the way across. If you have not seen my video about reviewing this lens specifically, I'm going to link it up in the card above here, so you guys can check it out. But I'm very pleased with the IBIS. You know, some places I shot as, you know, 1/8 of a second indoors, you know, trying to keep the ISO, you know, as low as I possibly could, and very pleasing images to do that. Now, what I like also about is the top screen on the camera, right? So I'm talking about this one. So previously they used to make one of those kind of like a watch type LCD, but now it's, I don't know if it's an OLED or some other type of a screen. If you guys know, please put it in the comments below. But it's very helpful to be able to check your settings once in a while when you're shooting. The top screen is pretty good as well. As far as the SD cards, so the camera uses an XQD card, and I just recently had this one here. So XQD card or CF Express, both cards work very well. I'm very happy. I come from, as I mentioned, D500 that used an XQD card here before. And I simply was able to take out of this camera and pop it into the Z6 II, and worked no problems. Now, what I like about the CF Express cards or XQD cards is the transfer speed of the images from your camera from a card onto computer is lightning fast. I mean, I can transfer probably 20 gigabytes worth of images, probably in a matter of a minute or so, and it's really, really fast. So I like that. Now, if you're using the SD cards for that purpose, oh man, it takes sometimes like half an hour to transfer all the files. So that's a nice feature about Z6 II. Now, as far as the ISO that I used, primarily, I shot anywhere as high as ISO 800 and 1600 and even 2500 indoors, in the evening. And I was very pleased with the results as well. So I was able to adapt my kind of faithful speedlight SB700. And again, works just like any other speedlight on top of a camera. In the Z6 II, you do have to turn on, basically enable flash on a camera. There's a setting within camera menu that allows you to do so. But again, use this flash, trying to shoot sometimes at f3.5, f4, if I was shooting groups indoors, in low light, basically nighttime, where you just only have ambient light from light fixtures. 800 ISO, 1600, 2500, perfect images. As you can see on the screen here right now, I really, really have no complaints about that. If you have f-mount lenses, whether it's DX crop lenses or full frame lenses for your previous Nikon cameras, they work very well with the FTZ adapter. I'm actually shooting this video right now with the FTZ adapter and 18 to 35 f1.8 Sigma lens, and as you can see, there is virtually no breathing. Camera focuses on my eye perfectly. I'm using IAF function on the camera, and it works even better on photos. So I would say if you do have f-mount lenses, don't sell them just yet. I would suggest hang on to them. You're going to get a lot of value for it. You can certainly purchase Z-mount lenses like this one. This is probably one of the least expensive Z-mount lenses that Nikon makes right now. It's very close to, when it comes to price, of 35 millimeters and 85. Now, if you're looking to jump to kind of a more of a longer focal range of 24 to 70, f2.8, or you can go f4, or maybe even 70 to 200, 2.8. Really, price goes up quite a bit. It's similar to prices when Nikon came out with f-mount lenses, so it's very comparable. But the quality of these Z lenses is spectacular. Now, one thing that I would say, the mirrorless cameras are not as good as DSLR, is that the battery life is not that great. So obviously camera comes with a battery. It's EN-EL15C, and for the wedding I purchased another one. Basically, here we go, EN-EL15C, $73 for a battery. My goodness. And nice thing about these batteries is that you can actually charge your camera using some kind of a power bank, which previously we haven't been able to do that. Now you can still utilize your other EN-EL15 batteries from other cameras like D500, D750, even D7100, D7000 series. However, you cannot charge those batteries in camera the way you can do this one. So I used maybe about 2.5 batteries throughout the wedding. I actually had to charge one while I was at the wedding because I only had 2, because it uses more electronics, more electronic power. You have EVF constantly running, you have a back screen running, and constantly kind of focusing. So I would say, because of it requires more processing, camera comes with a dual processors as well, you do need to have more batteries. I would say if you're doing weddings, if you have 3 batteries for a wedding, I would say this probably would be sufficient for you. Now, I was attempting to utilize my Godox AD200 Pro, which I actually purchased for the wedding specifically. However, I forgot this at home. And speaking of forgetting equipment at home, you know what? That will be actually a good video for another time. So, but yeah, I intended to use AD 200 Pro. However, I forgot at home, so I ended up using, as I mentioned earlier, my Nikon SB 700, which worked out great for indoor wedding. Oh yes, one other interesting thing that I want to share with you guys, and that I just happened to find by accident. I was holding my camera in my hand, and all of a sudden there was really no noise in the room at the time. It was super quiet. I noticed this noise of something. It's kind of like almost like a digital noise. I can't really describe exactly what it is. And I put the camera next to my ear to listen to this, and it's the noise I've never heard before. It's almost like electricity is transferring from chip to chip. So if you know what it is and you have Z6 II or Z5 or any of the Z cameras, listen to this and see if you get the same thing, because I was just kind of surprised to hear what is it that, what kind of noise that the camera makes. And as far as the overall quality of the camera, I would say that it's better than other Nikon cameras I've used before. Now, I've never experienced cameras like D4, D5, D6, more for like a sports and wildlife shooting, which I've heard autofocus is fantastic on those cameras, and I don't doubt. However, with Z6 II, I had a very good experience. With this wedding, I was able to deliver probably a double number of images that I delivered than I have in the past, because there's just so many great images to share with your clients. So I would suggest that number of how sharp they are, the quality and colors, you really can't beat. Now, certainly, if you're shooting with Sony or if you're shooting with a Canon, those are great cameras too. If you're shooting RAW, you can match any color science you desire. So I would suggest that quality of the camera for the money that you spend on a camera versus something like a Canon R6, Canon R5. So I would really, I'm personally very pleased when it comes to photography. This was my first camera that I used for the wedding from the Z series. I heard that Z5 is pretty decent, and you can use this as a backup camera. Right now I'm using my D500, which actually I gave it to my son, who was my second shooter, who did fantastic. I actually ended up putting a strap because I don't want to have camera and a lens, $3,000, hanging on the 10-year-old's neck, or basically in their hands. So I'd rather have it to be on his shoulders in case he drops it. So anyway, that's besides the point. I'm on a tangent. So I would suggest that if you are considering, or if you are in the market for Z camera, Z7 II is virtually identical as Z6 II, except that it has a double number of megapixels. I believe it's 45, as opposed to Z6 II is only 24. And I think you guys will be very, very pleased if you consider getting this camera. I'm not looking to sell it, I'm looking to keep it, and probably be sharing more information later on. I hope this video was helpful to you. If you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing. Hit that bell notification so that you can be notified when the next video is released. And otherwise, I will see you in the next video.